welcome to Holistically Speaking. I'm your host, Morella DeVoe. Today I have a really special guest who I've been looking forward to interviewing for a while. Is my friend, Stephen Gonzalez. I've also worked with him personally, meaning that I've gone for his services, and I'm just delighted to have him so he can share with all of you what he does, which he calls mapping the subconscious. Welcome, Stephen, and I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So I've experienced your work, and yet I know almost nothing about how you got to do what you do, how you describe it, and what you're really doing when you're doing your work. So how did you get to do this work, mapping the subconscious?
Well, maybe a chronological answer would be better. I used to make my living as a psychic in Austin, Texas in the 80s.
As a psychic?
As a psychic.
I didn't know this about you.
Yeah, I did. And I found that I was part of a psychic community, and the community became progressively ungrounded. And so I decided to kind of write off that line of work for a while, and I actually got into therapeutic body work, which I did for a number of years.
As in massage or?
I started off with massage, but then just started getting into more structural body work. And then I noticed that as I would be talking to people, sometimes what I was saying was getting changes in their body that I wasn't with my hands. And so that's made me start thinking, you know, what was going on. And so I noticed when I described the body to the person I was working on, that a lot of times there's symptoms, just from a simple description of anatomy. Sometimes whatever symptom they came in with would start to resolve with their new knowledge of it. So it got me to start thinking about how is language affecting the body, how is symbolism affecting the body. And as I went along, I started, I guess, observing the interaction of the body with language and symbolism, and I started pondering that over the years.
And it sounds almost like even an awareness
of
the body.
Right. And plus I was using my own body as sort of a laboratory for that. So over time I developed, I guess, a way to interact with the body on a kind of a subconscious level with the person. And then I also started to learn how to be grounded with psychic kind of energies, or what people might call psychic kind of, because that you have to be grounded in your body to handle that kind of energy. So I started kind of letting that come in to my practice more. So then I work mainly by phone or Skype.
Yeah.
And so I started attracting clients who had physical symptoms, but I also started attracting clients who wanted to develop psychically, or already were established psychics or healers and had some kind of a blind spot. But lately I've even been getting calls for people in heavy-duty litigation that want to kind of read the energy of the person that that's suing them.
Interesting.
So, so it kind of has a real broad, a broad application.
So I guess I would love to get into some of those different applications in a minute, but there was something you just said that I interpret one way, and perhaps each one of us has a different understanding of what grounding is. You said that you work with getting grounded in your body and working with psychic energies, but really grounding yourself. So assuming that maybe people who are watching the show, maybe grounding is a new concept, or they have their own idea of what grounding means. What do you mean by grounding in your body?
Well, with my experience with myself and others in that kind of psychic community, what I saw was a failure to distinguish between subconscious material and maybe contact with some other dimension or energy. And so there was a real fuzziness, a real murkiness around that. Plus, if their subconscious material was dysfunctional, then that started to bleed in to the kind of information they received. It's like a lens, a murky lens. And so, and you're not really aware of it because it's your lens, but other people around you kind of start noticing it. So when I talk about grounding, it's being in your body and knowing the patterns in your body that are representative of dysfunctional energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that you can allow, so you can allow for that.
Yeah.
And so that requires you to maybe be in your body. Most of us aren't in our bodies, in a way, because we're not aware of how we're holding ourselves, what our posture is, much less our internal organs, what kind of tension they're under. So I found that the more you become more body aware, that's just more grounding. It's like being in your house and having access to all your rooms, as opposed to maybe one room being shut off, or like that.
So kind of similar, I guess, the way that I was hearing it from you, or the way I'm interpreting it, is almost like being connected to the material, the solid dimension of body, matter, as opposed to being kind of lost in the more airy dimensions of thought, or
exactly. Yeah, and really more into the dysfunction too. When you have kind of dysfunctional psyche patterns, you're having to interpret other information through that, and that could be, you need people around you.
Yeah.
Like be married or something, so there's someone around you to wave you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're going off the deep end, and sometimes you don't know that.
Yeah.
You know, you think you're really channeling some great energy, but really, it's and maybe you are, but it's coming through.
So people who come to you, like psychics who come to you, they're essentially looking for help in clearing that energy so that they can be a clearer channel. Is that?
You know, a lot of psychics come to me usually with some kind of physical symptom that they can't get a beat on, or it's a blind spot. And then usually it's and so we work with the symptom to find out what's going on with their psyche and how that's affecting maybe their psychic practice. That's usually the kind of thing. Or they want a primary relationship, but they can't seem to find one.
Yeah.
And so what kind of energy and pattern is at work there? Yeah, they usually call me with some kind of mundane aspect, because some of them are quite successful already in what they do. They're accomplished.
Yeah.
And so it's not, but if somebody's calling me up as a budding psychic or budding healer or shaman or something like that, then I kind of
help them.
I kind of say, what some of the pitfalls? What are some of the pitfalls? Grounding principles, clients are likely to encounter, and what those energies might do, how they might interact with them.
Yeah.
Sort of,
So for the layperson who's not watching the show and they don't think of themselves as a psychic or a shaman, or what might be something that people
real physical symptoms that they just can't get really, they find unresolvable. Maybe they don't want to use Western medicine, really go for it, and with Western medicine they want some alternative solutions, but they haven't had any success. So I tend to come from a very different angle with physical symptoms.
Can you tell us a story, an example of someone you helped with a particular physical symptom, and what that might be like?
Yeah, so I had a woman come to me with breast cancer. She had cancer tumor in her left breast. And so the way I worked with her, and they're all individual, but the way I worked with her was just really, I get a lot of family history, and then I might lead them to go meditatively and visually into the organ that's speaking to them.
Yeah.
So with this particular woman, I asked her to go into her left breast and just, do you see anything? Is it your left breast want to say anything? And she started getting a vision of her family and this dynamic, her father had with her stepmother. And through exploring the dynamic of the father with her stepmother, she arrived at some understanding about how she thought of nurturing in her life.
Mm-hmm.
So she really had a difficulty with being nurtured, feeling nurtured. So then I worked with her with what kinds of things could you do. And so she actually wanted this piece of furniture that she had denied herself for decades.
Mm.
And so we just got her to the point where she went out and actually purchased it.
Oh.
And her condition started to resolve.
Interesting. Through the awareness and buying.
It's sort of like everything's an energetic map. Your relationships are an energetic map. Your work is an energetic map. So once you kind of read how the energy's flowing, you can change some external thing, and then it'll change how it is in your body, because it addresses it in your body.
Yeah, and I guess the link to the piece of furniture was almost like taking ownership for her own nurturing and saying, this is the nurturing that I want to give myself. And by purchasing that, she was all of a sudden allowing that energy.
Yeah, there was a lot of, it's very symbolic. It's almost like you're working with somebody's dream.
Yeah.
But this life is a dream you can work with. So you can change the components of that dream, and when you change the components of the dream, you change the structure of your body. It's one and the same. So it's just it's a facility of kind of working with that.
Yeah. So I'm curious how you got to. Is this something that you developed yourself? This mapping the subconscious, or is there like a mapping the subconscious school that you went and got your
Hogwarts or something?
Hogwarts.
It just really developed organically over a long period of time. As a child, I would see auras and colors, and then, but I was raised Catholic, and that kind of shut down everything for a long time. And then later on in life, when I could assimilate Catholicism in a different way, those things started to come back. And then I had that, being a psychic, but it really being a really ungrounded experience for me and for the people I knew.
Yeah.
So that started the journey toward this. So it's really been kind of an organic journey. I haven't really trained per se. And some of the things that I do, I don't know that you could go somewhere and actually.
Well, what I found from working with you is that one of your greatest talents is that all of a sudden, and I guess I didn't know that you were a psychic before, but this is, I guess, your profound intuition that makes you ask a question that is so revealing. And that was something, I'd never experienced in, counseling, or it's just really profound how you're able to get there. So where is that coming from?
Yeah. Yes, I think we have a lot of answers in our life, and so the patterns in our life are held together with answers. So I ask questions to undo the answers you have. So it's more like when someone comes in, I'm not going to give them answers. What I'm going to give them is questions to the answers they already have. Excuse me. So one of the very first things I might ask somebody is, tell me about the conditions surrounding your conception. Now, most people are going to be like, I have no earthly idea. And I say, well, make up a story. What do you think happened? Was it just kind of a normal interaction with your mother and father one evening? Or was your father drunk? Or was, just make up some story. So invariably the story they make up, or maybe they've known some stories around their conception. Then, did they want to have a child? Did they want to get pregnant? Did they want a son, but they had a daughter? Did they contemplate abortion? All those things that are going on in the mind of the parents are already starting to affect you as one cell.
Right.
So generally, that's a question that comes in at a different angle for a lot of people. One question is, what's your relationship with death? And you know, especially I've noticed this with women, they might say, oh, I'm kind of fine with it because I think, you know, we're part of a larger energy and, you know, I think I'd be okay. But I'd say, okay, if your daughter died, how would you be with it? Well, I'd be devastated. And then I might say, could you walk me through why it would be devastating for her but not for you? Why the discrepancy? And so that might start bringing up, you know, it's just questions coming in at different angles. That I have found helpful.
And what's really interesting about the way you started just speaking now, saying people have lots of answers and you just ask the questions that's going to bring out the answer. And that so perfectly describes, I think, my experience with you, in that I felt like you already knew, somehow you already knew what you were asking me, but I don't know if that was just kind of a feeling that I was having.
The truth is people are a mystery. So I actually don't know. I actually don't know anything when a person walks in. And I really wait for the answers and the energy to reveal who they are. If there's anything that I feel like I bring to the space, is that I try to be empty. So that if you put any system into an empty space, that system starts to expand. So I really have techniques, maybe you might call them, or mindset, or strategies to put myself in the space of being empty, so that a person can feel like maybe they're just thinking out loud, where they don't feel any resistance to understanding something or realizing something or letting it come out.
So what are your favorite kinds of people to work with, or favorite situations, if you have any?
You know, I really do love my clients, and they come with such a variety, and so it's real fun for me to have such a variety. Like somebody might call me up because they're going into heavy-duty depositions, and so we talk about the energy of that, the energy of why they're in there, the energy of somebody that might be suing them, or somebody with a physical symptom. That's sort of like, that's also nice to kind of track that. Or I love working with women who want a primary relationship. I find that very fun. I feel like I'm a kind of a matchmaker, yentl kind of thing. And then budding psychics, I feel very protective of, and I feel like I can steer them kind of like top 10 things to avoid as a budding psychic kind of thing, you know, and mentor them so they don't make the same mistakes I did.
And so is this accurate? Because what's coming to me as you're speaking about your clients and the different kinds of people that you work with is that anybody who's experiencing something that they're feeling lost with, or a pattern that they keep repeating, or you know, any sort of thing that they're stumbling up against, that's something that you can help them with.
You know, the people that call me are all very successful in their life, and it's just a blind spot. And I feel like I'm another set of eyes, and maybe bring a different angle, an energetic angle, maybe to look at that, and so that they can see the thing they're stumbling over. And generally that's quite often the case. Something's here, I don't know what it is, and I've been working with it for a while, and it's not going anywhere. And so,
So one thing on your website that was curious to me is that you write that the body mirrors the subconscious.
Yes.
So what does that mean, or how do you see it?
That's a big question. And so, again, this is something that comes over a long period of time, kind of noticing through observation and through experience that's so, that the body mirrors the mind or mirrors the psyche. When I studied human embryology, I think I got a different mindset of how the human body develops, and without going into too much detail in human embryology, it basically develops into 3 systems. One system handles water, which is your gastrointestinal tract. One system handles air, which is your heart, lungs,
Mm-hmm.
and muscles basically, which is fueled by all of that. And the other system handles electricity, which is
Nervous system.
your nervous system. So the electrical system is basically how we experience thought, and the air system is basically how we experience emotion, and the water system is basically how we experience intuition. So when you have symptoms in your body, they're going to be like an intuitional symptom or emotional symptom or kind of a mental
Mm-hmm.
symptom.
Yeah.
So I use that as sort of a template by which I look at the body and also map it out and have that. Earlier, before, when we're talking off camera, we were talking about the assessment I have online.
Yeah.
Subliminal assessment is very embryologically oriented, and someone takes that assessment, but their conscious mind can't arrange
Mm-hmm.
the symbolism. It's
Yeah.
completely a subliminal process. It's high speed. And so you take that process, and that's myself asking myself the question, subconscious, what kind of language can I give you for you to communicate something? And so this is the result after pondering over that for quite a long time, what I came up with. And I use that as one of the tools to work with people, especially if I feel like there's a lot of dead ends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really not very obvious, then that's kind of another go-to strategy I have.
Yeah. So in your work, what it's making me think of is this connection of the body symptoms and the either emotional, mental, or psychic kind of
Yes.
energies. Is you're making me think of Louise Hay and like her connections with emotions and thought. Do you find any sort of, I'm guessing that you
Yeah, I
know
love Louise Hay, and certainly the whole body-mind connection, I think, is widely accepted, and there's a lot of fantastic practitioners. And so I wanted to take the angle of also what can the subconscious tell us before it exhibits a symptom?
Right.
I wanted to kind of say, well, what kind of things are going, like if you took the assessment, it would be, in a sense, a little prophetic. There'd be a prophetic element like, oh, these are the patterns, and this is what looks like it can develop later, so that you can bypass having to go through the symptom.
Yeah. And if we could show the slide with I want to show our viewers your website and the name of this assessment so that they can look it up. So it's StephenGonzalez.com, and that's your blog, right?
That's just my home site, and the site that's mapping the subconscious is mappingthesubconscious.com.
Oh, okay, mappingthesubconscious.com.
But you can also go to StephenGonzalez.com, and there's a button to click there, and you can just click that button.
That's the Map Your Underworld? Is that
yes,
the
it'll
button?
take you to that. That's another way of saying the same thing. That yellow button will take you to the Mapping the Subconscious website.
Perfect. So Map Your Underworld is that yellow button, and it takes you into that
Yes.
mapping
I call it the
website.
underworld because people call me with that have different paradigms. And so another way of saying mapping the subconscious is going into the underworld and befriending your monsters.
Interesting.
Some people feel like they have monsters,
Yeah.
in a sense. Just like when you're a little kid, there's monsters under the bed.
Yeah.
In general, I think that's true.
Well, and I think what's so interesting, and I just have to tell our viewers that this morning I clicked on that yellow button, and I was so bummed that I didn't have more time. So I really encourage you to go check it out. And as you're saying, it's really fast-paced. You probably don't even have time to think about it.
Yeah, you don't.
And it's going to give you so much information. Especially the idea that it's subliminal.
Yes.
That it's something else in your consciousness that's picking
Exactly.
this thing.
It bypasses your conscious mind. And some people are very uncomfortable with that. They said, I didn't get to choose anything. I said, well, you did choose them, but you didn't choose them consciously. Right.
So we have a few more minutes. Is there anything that you're feeling you really want to share with viewers about how maybe you can help them, so the sort of things that they might be?
Yeah, I think most people think that they have this belief in unbearability or inconsolability or unresolvability, and those are really just belief systems. And so a lot of people are very hesitant to go into some kind of a deep emotional state that they have because they don't think they're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to say that those kinds of things are very resolvable, very doable.
Yeah.
Right, because they kind of have them blown up in their mind.
Right.
You know, things like hopelessness that, they just don't want to bring up.
Yeah.
Or the death of children, or unbearability. Unbearability is a big one.
Things that are unbearable. Or
Yeah, they don't want to bring up things that they think are unbearable, but end up being very bearable.
Yeah. And, when you were talking about the little gremlins, the little monsters in our head,
Yeah.
What comes up for me is like the places where we sabotage ourselves, where we repeat patterns, where we keep doing things that are maybe not constructive. I'm sure those are all things that doing maybe the assessment, coming and talking to you can help them shed so much light.
Right.
On
There's
that.
sort of like garden variety things. I tend to have clients that have bigger than garden variety things, but I also have clients that have kind of garden variety size things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so, I've enjoyed our conversation so much because it's actually made me even more curious. Like, oh, I want to come talk to you again. There's still so much stuff that I have to figure out about myself. But, just a reminder, our viewers, I know people come to you for neck pain, back pain, those kind of, like you said, the woman with breast cancer who was feeling like she wanted a different kind of answer as well.
Right.
The places where we're stuck, the things that are frustrating. I want a relationship. I have
Yeah.
issues with money.
Yes.
Like all of the struggles in our lives that you can really help to bring light as to what's happening with them internally.
Yeah. So sometimes it's been difficult to know how to describe my work. Sometimes I'll just say an advisor of sorts, and depending on the client, kind of.
Right. An advisor and also like a guide to help you figure out your subconscious.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me, Stephen.
Thank you.
This was really fun. And I hope this was interesting for you. Check out the Mapping the Subconscious at StephenGonzalez.com and click on the yellow button to take your self-assessment. See you next time. Bye-bye.